Welcome to the Brave Women at Work podcast. This is your host, Jen Pastikas. I'm so glad you're here. With the Brave Women at Work podcast, you'll get the resources and tips along with real-world stories and humor to empower and inspire you to take bolder and braver actions in your career and life. Welcome to the Brave Women at Work podcast. This is your host, Jen Pastikas. I'm so glad you're here. Well, I'd love to start by giving a warm welcome back to my wiser, older sister. Well, if you know me really well, you know I don't have a biological sister, sadly, but my guest today, Marilyn Vetter, sure feels like my sister. Marilyn and I met one another a few years ago, and our stories are so similar, it's eerie. So in Marilyn's first chapter, she decided to become an author and achieve a dream of contributing to a prior Brave Women at Work women anthology. The subtitle is Lessons in Confidence. She talked about the question of why not me to a potential promotion in her career in her first chapter. That question stopped me in my tracks and had me wondering if I took a moment to ask, why not me to opportunities in my life and my career? So when Marilyn let me know she was going to contribute another chapter to a new book, Brave Women at Work, Lessons in Letting Go, I was so excited to hear a beautiful new story from her. After all, she's an amazing storyteller and a beautiful writer. So when I read this most recent chapter, Chasing Contentment, I actually had to read it a few times because I cried. I cried every time I have read the chapter. And she admits in this newest chapter for all the world to see that she was, I'm going to underscore, a workaholic. Marilyn's words were a mirror to me and are a mirror to me that I too am, underscore, am a workaholic. It's weird and it feels completely naked to say out loud. After all, our culture, our society glorifies it. That whole hustle culture, girl boss, all of those things have just made it in vogue or cool to overwork. I also admit my workaholism during our conversation, which is new for me. They say awareness is the first step to changing the negative pattern or habit that we have. So, well, if Marilyn can make the strides that she has made in her life and work, I am confident that I can do the same. After all, I recently texted Marilyn that I need all of that big sister wisdom and support, and I know that she'll be there for me when I need her. So before we get started, let me share more about Marilyn. Marilyn Vetter is a leader of teams and a channel for innovation and talent development. In the biopharmaceutical industry, she used her expertise in government affairs, strategic planning, market expansion, and corporate affairs as a catapult for success. Marilyn and her teams crafted initiatives in policy, market access, and corporate social responsibility that strengthen both top and bottom lines. She has jumped through hoops, climbed ladders, and dodged bullets in the professional gymnastics required to succeed. Marilyn relies on her experience and her intuition to be an ally for dedicated professionals, from those who are at the peak of their career to those who are considering job transitions. Her call to serve has led to board service and philanthropy with organizations in the life sciences, professional development, civic engagement, and environmental conservation. Her professional and personal worlds combined in her current role as the president and CEO of Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever, the nation's leading organization committed to conserving upland birds and wildlife through habitat improvement. Marilyn leads the passionate 600-person team while amplifying awareness of their critical work. In her first 2 years there, she and her team have shattered every organizational record, including revenue growth, membership, restored lands, and educational outreach. When she's not working, Marilyn enjoys traveling, writing, hiking, and hunting with her husband Clyde and their German short haired pointers. I am confident that you will get something from today's conversation. So get your favorite cup of coffee or tea or favorite beverage and listen to this sisterly and wonderful conversation. So, if Brave Women at Work has helped you personally or professionally, please be sure to share it with a friend, family member, or colleague. And of course, the ratings and reviews that you leave, I so appreciate. They mean the world to me. And so, if you've already done that, or if you can take a few minutes to do that, I would so appreciate it. And again, like I said, if you've left a review, you've made my day. Also, if you haven't downloaded one of the freebies from my website, check them out at bravewomanatwork.com. The freebies are 24 career and leadership affirmations, 5 ways to managing your imposter syndrome, and most popular, getting paid 10 negotiation tips. And I have to tell you, we recently held our Thrive in 25 Women's Leadership Conference here in the Chicagoland area. And I got to speak on negotiation. And wow, I wish you all could have been there because I felt so empowered, so impassioned about helping women get the pay and the benefits they so deserve. I also have to say that the 60 or so women that joined us, it was I don't know. It was like just a beautiful, life-changing experience. And so, if you'd like to kind of lurk around in the social interwebs, go check out some of the photos, some of the videos, some of the connections that were made at Thrive in 25 on my LinkedIn profile under my name, Jennifer Pastikas. So, as a final announcement, if you missed one of the more recent episodes of Brave Women at Work, the most recent book, Brave Women at Work Lessons in Letting Go, just launched recently here in late June 2025 at time of recording. So, please pick up your copy today. And if you're enjoying one or all of the stories of letting go and surrender, and all of the books are powerful, but this one is it's just whoa, right? They just keep getting like more and more beautiful and expansive, and I'm here for it. Pick up that one and leave us a review on Amazon. All right, let's welcome Marilyn to the show. Well, welcome back, Marilyn, to Brave Women at Work. How are you today?
I'm doing great.
Well, I would tell everybody that she is keeping on with her situation, and I just want you to know I so appreciate that you're here.
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't miss it, Jen. We talked about it earlier that since we met in the first podcast and the book series, I've kind of felt like sisters from another mother. So I definitely would not have missed this.
Oh, thank you so much. So, why don't you, because it has been a minute since we've been together in this forum. So, why don't you tell some folks like about you, anywhere you'd like to go with this, more about your background story, and if there's anything new since last time. Like, did you pick? I mean, I know you have a new career, but like anything else new and fun that you want to share?
Okay. Well, so for the folks that didn't hear our first podcast, my if I think mostly about work, I spent 30 years in the biopharmaceutical space, working mostly in government affairs, and certainly started in sales and market access. And so I really loved that environment. I loved addressing patient needs. I loved working with my colleagues and providers, but there just comes a time sometimes in careers where you have to make changes. And I came to a nonprofit just over 2 years ago now, Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever. I'd been on their board for about 7.5 years.
Mm,
And the CEO was retiring at the same time I was stepping out of my old job. And
mm-hmm.
several people that were familiar with the organization said you should really think about it. You have a long history of both advocacy and leadership. And so I threw my name in the hat with a couple hundred other folks. And it's really been an incredibly rewarding experience. And I've been here now. My 2 year anniversary was in February.
Wow.
And I have just loved every minute. Really have.
I was there when like you were first interviewing and you weren't sure. And so I'm just so excited. I'm tickled to hear that this was a good call for you.
Yeah, I am too. You never know. And I'm not going to lie that there aren't moments when I see things in the pharmaceutical industry that I don't have FOMO. And I think we're all going to have that,
Yeah.
as you think about your life and the stages that you're in. When you look forward, you still sometimes look back. But being in an organization that is exclusively purpose driven is pretty darn rewarding.
So you were, this is a second time authorship too for you for Brave Women at Work. So like you couldn't stay away. You like decided to come back. So I don't know this answer. So why did you decide to share on the topic of letting go? Like what attracted you about this second book? Why did you decide to do it?
So it's funny when I thought about the book, it was at a time. So and we talk about my chapter that am trying to really diligently not take on too many things at once in my life. And it was a time where I absolutely did not have time to write a chapter.
Oh,
And I really waffled about it, but this topic, it called me and I knew I had to write it. It was everything about me leaving and letting go of my past career and my work habits,
yeah.
and how was very intentional about changing my work habits going forward, that I just knew that I had to write it. Even if you guys hated it and didn't publish it, I had to write it. I had to get it out.
Oh wow. Okay, so that's good for me to know. I had no idea. Some people are just like very intentional, like I'm going to skip a book and then I'm going to come back in, but I knew you had some sort of story underneath there. And there was, right? That they're like, "Oh, I had to do this." So everyone, Marilyn's title in Brave Woman at Work: Lessons in Letting Go is called Chasing Contentment. And because I'm the resident book marketer, I read all the chapters like several times so I can get a feel for like who, like for each of the stories, right? So as I'm helping people with some of their marketing. And you admit that you were or are like, I would say were, right? A workaholic. And I'm going to just admit, I know I am too. And it's not like, oh, yeah, I'm so proud of it. Like, I cried like throughout your chapter several times. And so that's why this wasn't part of the plan, but I knew Marilyn had to come back because I was like, I want to out myself on my own show. Like, I want to heal like my big sis has, right? Like where I want to learn, from your story, from things like that. And so was that really difficult? Because as I read your chapter, I knew that work was a problem for me. But when I read your chapter, I'm like, whoa, like this is next level. Like you're putting it on print. So was that a difficult realization for you to come to?
I always knew, just like you,
Yeah.
that I was a workaholic. It was hard for me to admit that it was a weakness. That was the hardest part for me, is
Uh-huh.
that by being a workaholic, I wasn't bringing my best self to work. I wasn't absolutely was not bringing my best self to my family, to my marriage, to my friendships, and everything else, and my personal health. Everything else was second fiddle to work. And that's why I knew I had to put it in paper. I knew I was going into this role, and I thought if I don't write it down, I could dare to do it again.
Oh my God, that just makes me like bristle up right here. Oh man. So you were afraid of your own pattern.
I was that, and I can't say that I fight it as much as I used to, because I'm in a habit now. It's been 3 years since I left my last job, and I've been here about two and a third. And I have reaped the benefits of having a more balanced life. And so I don't worry that I will slip back, so to speak. But I knew that if I didn't own it, that I also couldn't help other people either. And
Mm,
you and I are not the only two that
yeah.
suffer from this. And we live in a nation that absolutely rewards this kind of behavior.
Yeah, so I want to skip ahead here because you quoted a New York Times bestselling author, Arthur Brooks, a couple times in your chapter, and he said workaholism is one of the nastiest and most virulent addictions he's ever seen. And I think it's really sinister. I think it's like rewarded. I think that no one talks about it at all. And so, do you have any thoughts on that? Like, living as an American, living in our culture, I just think it's just as bad as it's always been. And my only hope is that like our Gen Zs, our millennials, like I'm praying for these people. Like I'm like, please pull me over the goal line. Like show me the way because like I haven't gotten the message. And so why do you think it's so nasty and like so rewarded? It's just it's not it's right there in plain sight, but I'm not an alcoholic and I'm not a drug addict and like so that's so negative, but this is like, oh, just keep on killing yourself.
Yeah, it is so socially mainstreamed that it's
Yes.
not just okay. It's you get promotions, you get recognized. Every year in my merit review, they would talk about my incredible work ethic. And when you grow up in a family like I did, where work was highly valued, eh, that was what I grew up thinking was normal. My parents were very poor farm people. They were both first generation Americans that they thought, well, this was, and it was their ticket out of poverty. And
Yes.
I understand that. But they also did find time in their lives for joy. They spent time with their neighbors, with their families, with their siblings. And while they worked hard, when they turned it off, they turned it off and they found time for joy in their life.
Mm,
And because I think our world has switched to a digital age,
mm-hmm.
our work never really disappears, right? Our phone
It's right
is
there.
always there. It's beckoning us. And honestly, I think that digital connection is what has made the tether so hard to sever.
Mm. You say in your chapter so vulnerably about your mom's death, right? And she was a worker bee, wasn't she? Right. And
Mm-hmm.
I would have loved to have met her. I don't know. I just like imagine a Spitfire. Like she'll just tell you how it is. So was that it? Like, we talk about, alcoholics, drug addicts, like all the addicts, right? Is there a bottom? Was it your mom's death that like hit that bottom, or what was that bottom, or that like I can't do it this way anymore? What was that moment for you?
I think it was the fact that, and I mentioned it in the chapter, was that when I went to her funeral, I was so disappointed by that everybody talked about what a workhorse she was.
Yeah.
And she was not afraid to work. She loved to work. And in fact, she really rued the day when her heart started failing that she couldn't physically work. So farm wife, you're carrying pails of feed and buckets of water and unloading grain trucks with a shovel and hauling bales by hand. And
Wow.
she owned that and loved it. That was her identity. And I was so disappointed because I got to know her so differently. We shared a lot of things. We both loved to read. I we both liked to write letters. And she was so curious. But people didn't know that about her because they didn't know that that's how she filled her evenings. It was by reading or asking questions. And so that was just I was profoundly impacted by the fact that people didn't know who she was outside of work. And
Mm,
it made me wonder, is that what people will say about me someday? Is that, damn, she was a great worker, but what else? And, the legacy we leave from work is valuable, but it should not be the only thing that people think about. And I didn't want people to say, well, she was a pretty crappy sister. She was not a very good friend.
yeah,
She
no,
wasn't,
seriously. Yeah.
I worried about that because I don't want people to someday say, well, yeah, when I needed a project done, she was right there. That's not what people talk about.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Yes.
So, okay, I'm kind of going off for a minute, but now that you've had 3 years beyond, you've really moved past some of these not so good work habits. What would you say people would say about you now?
Certainly more present. I'm
Okay.
far more present in my life and theirs than I was 3 years ago.
Okay. I love that. So when you've been going along, and I'm sure there were, but I was just curious again, were there like physical, mental, emotional signs? Like, so this is how I feel. I just actually talked to someone about this today. So, like, there's these warning signs, like, there are these lights on my car that are like going on, and I just keep going, nah, nah, nah. Like, what is wrong with me? Like, I don't know if you resonate with that, and what were yours?
Oh yeah, check engine light soon, right?
Yeah.
Get the oil change. I was gaining weight. I was my Now my blood pressure. I've never had to take any medicine for any of my health reasons, but my blood pressure was starting to go up a bit when I'd go to the doctor. Certainly the
Yeah.
scale was creeping up. My cholesterol was creeping up a little bit, but I just knew I was felt depleted all the time. And I wasn't sleeping. I was absolutely not exercising. So my strength was declining.
Yeah.
And then you just feel like crap about yourself. I mean, think about it. When you eat bad food, which is what I was doing because I was rushing through it, hyper caffeinating myself, dehydrating myself,
Yep.
not exercising. How can you be your best self when everything inside of you is garbage? And
I
I
know
just thought I
exactly.
could persevere, right? And I don't know. I just at one point I finally said this just doesn't work for me anymore. And as they say, what doesn't serve you, it's time to move on.
So when you did make that big break, that was so brave, from pharma, even though you have FOMO now, sometimes that's human nature. And you took some time, you took 6 months off, which, looking back, I almost wish for you it would have been a year, right? But like 6 months is what you had. Did you find that you went through like also a grieving process of who you were into like the rebirth of who you are now?
Oh yeah. It was a lot harder than I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
The first month it was kind of like checking yourself into rehab. I got sleep, I ate better, I started working out, I didn't check my phone all the time and
Yeah.
it felt really fantastic. Like, wow, this is how other people feel. That was a little bit Pollyanna because most people don't get to
Yeah.
take a month off. And and then it didn't feel like a vacation anymore. Then I felt really untethered. I felt
Yeah.
disconnected. I don't have kids, so started losing my identity and my purpose, which I've had to really connect to is that my purpose shouldn't be my job. It
Yeah.
should be who I am and how I show up for other people, whether it's at work or at play. But I really struggled there for about a couple of months. I was making excuses to be on the computer all the time. My husband would be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, there's a lot of stuff I need to close out of my last job." And I was making excuses to try to find, I was like reading about pharma nonstop. I was building up my resume. I could not stop just staying busy, no matter what it was.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll report back to you in a little while and we'll have that conversation. I have a feeling, yeah, because it is hard to lose your identity and find something new. And you said you're more present today. And you've also, I guess, disassociated your identity with your work, even though you love it. So, do you still have moments where you slip back, or no, you're pretty more firmly rooted in Marilyn is this, not, leading this company?
I think we all have moments where we're busy. There's times of the year
Yeah.
where we get super busy. And I try to I know when those times of the year are for me. And I sit with my team and say, all right, when are the months I need to be on the road? Give me an end date. Let's get my calendar because I know I have to actually be very intentional about it. Because if I don't, then I'm going to be busy all year. I'm going to be traveling all year, weekends all year.
Yeah.
Because I could if I wanted to. I could be at an event. I have 750 chapters in our organization. If I wanted to, I
Wow.
could go to 750 banquets. I could, 15 state meetings. I could just go on and on and on. So I
Wow.
have to be super intentional about I need periods where I can re- recharge the battery and they know that now, and they're super great about doing that, of saying, all right, well, let's say January, February, March are a busy time, and we'll really focus on that. And then there's always going to be travel. I'm going to have to go to DC now and then. I'm going to have to go to places. That's okay. I
Yeah.
just can't be gone every week, every weekend, all the time. And so really putting intention about, how do I protect myself from myself?
Oh, that is so good. And so now you have a team of people. Do they ever like say, "Hey, you're slipping," or "Hey, you're going it seems like you're traveling more than normal." Do you have anybody that like kind of checks you, or no, you're like, "No, Jen, I'm an adult. I check myself."
I'd say both.
Okay.
I will there, and here's the other thing is that today is a great example. Um, I had a lot of stuff going on in the last couple weeks, and I've been traveling a ton. And when people came in today and they said, "How you doing?" And I said, "I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm wiped out." I would have never done that before. I
Mm-hmm.
would have, no one was ever going to see me sweat or be tired, right? I was the old secret antiperspirant commercial. I thought that showed weakness.
Okay.
And so now I'm much more cognizant of checking in with where my headspace is. And yes, every now and then they'll say, someone else can take that. And I'll be like, cool. Hey, let's figure out who that is, and
Okay.
let
Yeah.
somebody else have that opportunity to participate in an event that I don't
Need to
have to
be
be at
at.
all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really good. So one other thing we also have in common, so like the perfectionism, the hyperworking is scarcity. So when I saw that in your chapter, I'm like, dang it, there's another thing we have in common. So do you think that that was because of your parents? I mean, because we learn about the concept of scarcity in money and just everything from our families. So is that where that came from, that scarcity thinking?
Oh, absolutely. My parents were quite poor, and
Mm-hmm.
we grew up in a family where we never wanted for our basic needs. We had a house, we had simple clothes, we always had food. But most Christmases and birthdays, we didn't have gifts. And quite honestly, as kids, it didn't really bother us. We had each other. We had a very loving environment, and it was a different time, and it was a different place. Central North Dakota in the 70s and 80s was not. There weren't a lot of wealthy people, so it
Right.
really probably wasn't so foreign for families to not have a lot of those things. But I also saw the fact that when my father died unexpectedly when he was 63, and my mother was left with debt and the inability to pay for a funeral outright, and having
Oh,
to spend, and then to really just have to face this fear alone, I that was just seared into my brain, that I did not want to end up in that place, that I would be helpless. And man, when you it's a very
yeah.
I hate to use the word trauma because it's overused, I think, in many ways, but it was one of those experiences that just never left me. I was always worried about being without or having enough.
Mm. So I relate to that. So I was a solid middle class family. My parents were both in education. My dad was a principal. My mom was a teacher for 37 years. They always were like hustling. Like
Hmm.
what did we do? Like this is legit. Like we would get like cans like in and put them in bags, like when we would walk down and like pick cans, basically pick bottles or whatever
Oh,
out of
sure.
alleys, like to get cash, right? Like when that
Yeah,
was a thing. And then we started a family business, which became like a lawn service. I mean, like hustling, like definitely got the work ethic from my family.
that's cool.
It is really, really cool, but like we never sat down either, right?
Yeah,
So it's just like that scarcity of we may not have enough or we've got to go hustle to kind of do a little bit more. My sister-in-law, I'm going to give her a shout out, Brooke. She always looks at my brother and I and she just laughs and she goes, "What is wrong with you people?" Like because my brother's the same way. He's always hustling and got some new idea or whatever. She's like, "Why can't you two sit down?" And so she always is laughing about that. But it definitely has caused me to have that, well, what if there's not enough, or what if I need to do more, what if this, what if that, all of that thinking. So I'm just wondering if kind of getting to a more neutral place in your life, if that scarcity thinking is kind of tamped down a little, or if it's still always a little there. Because I think it's difference, they come together, overwork and scarcity come together, but maybe they're healing in different timelines or different paths. So I was just wondering about the scarcity thinking for you.
That has definitely been second in the journey of trying to let go of something and
Yeah.
letting go of that scarcity, that fear. So I
Yeah.
mean, it's
It
really is
is.
fear driven, 100%. And my financial advisor has been a big part in that, of like,
Good.
all right, well, let's model it out. And he assures me all the time of, unless you do crazy things when you retire someday, you should have be fine. There's another book that actually, Jen, it made me think of that I was going to recommend to you. I
Yes.
actually listened to it as an audiobook, but it's called Die with Zero.
Okay, we'll put that in the show
And
notes.
it is it's pretty darn profound for someone who is like me, that, never enough. And the premise is, okay, well, none of us can time our money so that we can die with zero, because we don't know
Right.
what zero is for us. But it helps us really dive into the, what do I really need?
Mm.
And the fact that most people that have focused really hard on saving die with a lot of money left, because it, like, got to worry about the kids or worry about that. But if you've really planned and your debts are paid, and your kids need the experiences now. And so the premise is not that you should deny your children an inheritance. It's that you should give them the time that they need now, because they wouldn't trade that for $1 million when they're 65 and you're 90 and you just passed away. And that you should
Mm.
live your life, that you should work to live your life today. While yes, we plan for the future, we should not obsess about that.
Oh, that's so good. So, I mean, I think that's true. I mean, my dad died when I was 18. He was 48. Doesn't that sound young now?
Oh my
Uh,
God, Jen, my dad died when I was 18 too.
oh, come
Not
on.
ve-
Are you, is
You
that
sure?
legit?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was
Oh,
63 though, but
okay, but it doesn't matter. Like,
no.
this is weird. Okay, so anyway, yeah, so I was 18, my dad was 48. Your
Oh,
mom has passed. I mean, like when you've lost a parent or someone just so dear to you, you would just wish you could have a cup of coffee with them, or just wish they could,
yeah.
be there to chat with you. And so Die with Zero, I will definitely think about that, because while you're multitasking or you're overworking, you can't really be present with the people that you think you are, right? But it's almost like you're a meat suit and you're like not really there. You know what I mean? Like people are
Yes,
talking at you and
absolutely.
you're like,
Uh-huh.
I'm not
Uh-huh.
really listening to you right now. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it was recommended to me by a friend from the gym, and I'm really glad I listened to it. It was a good book.
Oh, okay, I'm going to be on that. So, you mentioned something in your chapter called the leadership circle profile, and I'm an assessment nerd, so I've had like people on that have done Myers-Briggs and strengths and Enneagram, and like now I'm like, okay, I got to talk about this one. So, what is that assessment, and why did you choose that one? And I know you've taken it twice, so why that one?
It actually, I'm a bit of a leadership nerd too, but and particularly the assessments. And this one was
Okay.
my favorite because, they all have a self-assessment part of them, but
Yes.
this is primarily an external assessment, and it also includes a lot of written narrative from them. So the
Ooh.
assessors have lots of opportunity to give you written feedback. And I really like the dynamics of it. There's a lot of subcategories, and including the categories. And I'm going to read you what it says on their
Yes.
website. It says the assessment is really focused on how are my behaviors and mindset enabling or constraining my intended leadership impact and or on the business performance. So basically, how do others perceive me and how does it impact them? And
Mm.
because of the written narrative, it really changes because you can see all kinds of data. But once you start hearing people's words, then it really tends to have more of an impact. And I'll give you a good example. So the first time I took it, one of the categories is balance.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is rated on a scale of 0 to 100, and I
Mm-hmm.
got a 3. It
I read
is
that and I was
not
like,
a good
what?
number. It
No,
is
it's not a good
not a
number.
good number.
Okay.
And it was interesting. It was even more interesting when I read it 7 years later, when I took it the second time, of what the comments from people were of like, man, she gets an amazing amount of work done, but I wonder if she spreads herself too thin.
Mm,
They would comment about, I don't know if she gets enough rest. I don't know if she takes care of
mm,
herself enough. And that's probably speaking to, why would they know that? I'm probably irritable. They're probably seeing me on email at 2 and 3 in the morning. People have always commented about, not so much anymore. But man, if I send you an email at midnight, I'm going to get one back before morning. All of those kinds of things. So seeing their words of how you show up for them and how that impacts them was really a phenomenal thing for me and that assessment. And so I've brought it here to my team here.
oh,
And
cool.
what I would tell people is that you need to be very mature in your leadership. It's really hard for very new leaders to sometimes hear those things because they haven't been established as a leader for a long period of time. And if you are going to take it so that you can learn from it, just know that it's a growth opportunity. So, and all of us have opportunities to grow. So when I took it the second time, a lot of the same strengths were there. They were much more profound. And I think that's because I'm in a better place in my life. I'm certainly better mentally than I am. And my balance score, while it wasn't great, it was still a 51, which is a
I'll
pretty
take that.
marked improvement from a 3.
I'll take that.
Yes, definitely.
No, that's really good. Okay, so I want to take that one. So you can just buy it off of their website, or did you have to go through like I'll have to look.
We both know, someone that that can give you the assessment. So I'll remind you that afterwards. But
Okay.
think, I think they might have a very, very abbreviated version on their website.
Okay.
I'm not
Okay.
sure.
Okay. Okay. That sounds good. So we've kind of touched on this, but I wanted to re-dive in. So there's this quote again from Arthur Brooks, a second quote from your chapter. But if you attain excellence and are deeply invested in it, you can feel pretty irrelevant when you inevitably fall from those heights, and that is agony. And you talked about kind of that separation from your work. But what about the other thing we haven't touched on? Yes, I think it's connected, but I think it's different. Is like the ego death. Is like
Hmm.
there is a real ego death on the other side of what you've gone through. And so have you buried your ego? Like, is it still hanging out with you? Like, where are you at? And how does it relate to your achievements now? Like when something big happens, like how do you react to it now? So let's start with the ego death part.
I don't know if our ego ever dies, but it
Mm,
is a lot quieter and a lot less part of my life and my
yeah.
decision making than it used to be.
Yeah.
I would say that my ego has been largely replaced by an organization that's focused on purpose, and that my purpose in this organization is to make sure that the team has everything that they need to be able to deliver our mission in a
Yeah.
way that our members and our donors want to see. So I think that can be accomplished anywhere, in a for-profit or a not-for-profit business, for sure. I think I was too obsessed with titles and
Mm,
recognition. I think even on salaried income, you get really, those are those tools, that measuring stick of, am I worthy? Do
yes.
I have enough? Am I valid? Am I relevant? And so I think when I went through that break from my last career and this one, I think that's what I was experiencing was my ego was screaming at me saying, you need to get back on that hamster wheel. You
Yeah.
need to find a job back in that arena and jump right in. And I was my body was saying, no, you can't do it again. So there was this clash of titans of trying to like who's
Wow.
going to win. So while I don't think anybody's, and I probably my ego will never die, but it will certainly not be on my chip on my shoulder and screaming at me like it used to. And I'm finding much more joy in delivering joy to others, whether if showing up for friends and family or showing up for my team here. That is speaking more closely to my heart than it certainly was in the past.
Yeah, I hear in what you're saying, like servant leadership. So in replacement of like your own achievements, it's like, how can I pay it forward for the cause I'm with? Like, because you're doing like real purpose work and your team is huge. And does that make sense or does that resonate with you?
Absolutely. You know, I guess I called it the grieving the loss of relevance. And
Mm,
and I think that's because when we over identify our identity as work based, that's when we lose that's when we lose our focus and we lose our purpose. So
hmm
while I work for an organization that's purpose driven, every for profit or non for profit organization says it has a purpose. And when our purpose is to work is when I think you really go astray. So for me, while I'm still working, my I see my work is to make sure that this team is developed, nurtured, that we're building a culture where they feel they are as important as their work. One of the things that I see in nonprofits actually is that a lot of times employees feel like they get taken advantage of because people will
mm,
be like, well, you need to do what's best for the organization because it's purpose driven.
hmm
And they're like, well, I don't want to be taken advantage of because our purpose is valuable, so am I. So I
mm.
think I'm much more invested here in investing in my team and so that they feel like my job is to make sure that they have the tools that they need and that they feel seen, valued, heard, appreciated.
Yeah. Well, with your team, I've talked to you before, I'm like, this is not a small team. So like at Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever, I mean, isn't it like 500 to 600 people?
Yeah, we're pushing about 650 right now.
Okay. So I'm freaking out for you. So as a workaholic and as your sister from a whole other family, I just have to ask you how, like, and you've mentioned it, like you've got you got your things in place, right? Your tools in place. But how have you not fallen back in? Because when I hear like 650 people, I'm sure you've got a great team supporting you and management underneath, but I just kind of get a little anxiety ridden. So I just want to like just have you talk about the magnitude of what you're leading.
And Jen, we talked about this. This is remember when I'm running through O'Hare and I'm like,
Yeah.
Jen, I need your opinion on this. Like I'm super worried that if I jump in, that this job's gonna own me.
And it
And
didn't.
I and it and I've worked really hard to not, but I think one of the things that I reframe myself with every time I think I have to do this,
Hmm.
I think I catch myself and it's I write it down a lot. I tell people a lot when they're coaching others, every time I own it, I deny someone else the ability to grow through delegation. And they're learning a skill that I already know. So why would I take that chance away from them? For someone who's also a caretaker like you are, that is
Mm-hmm.
how I was able to shift my mindset was that it almost feels selfish sometimes to take the opportunity away from others. I say that the best leaders get very little sunlight. They're the stem of the tree and not the branches and the leaves. And that our job is to just stay their anchor as their foundation, but allow them to get the most sunlight, i.e., recognition. And that has helped me really. feel okay about not doing all the work.
Okay, that's really powerful because I'm always trying. I've had a couple people in my team say, I'm like, well, what do you want to do? And they'll get really quiet. And then I'm like, no, really, I'm asking you. I want to know what you want to do. And they're like, well, I'd really like your job eventually. And I'm like, amazing, amazing, because that means I'm doing something right as the stem, in your kind of metaphor here. I'm the stem of this beautiful plant, but I don't have to be shining in the sun. My job is to get you as much visibility and play as possible and to advocate you and sponsor you in the rooms you're not in so that you can take my job.
Absolutely. And it is a very rewarding experience to be able to do that.
Oh, yeah. I'm working on it with a couple right now. And I'm like, yes, please take my job.
Here,
Here
take
you
all of
go.
it.
Here you go. Anyway, well, I think that it's been really cool to see, from the sidelines this 2 years. And I'm so excited that you shared, this chapter because I'm glad that you felt the need to get it out on paper because I have a feeling I'm going to be coming back to it several times in the next few years. So thank you very much.
I'll try to help you be accountable as well.
Oh yes, please, please do reach out. Be like, hey, how you doing over there in the corner of your state? How you doing? Okay, so I know it's been a minute again. So if you have any differences, plus I know we're also doing everybody, spoiler alert, we're doing an affirmation deck on this very question. So it's really exciting. But I don't know if anything's changed. So what are 1 to 2 ways that women can be braver at work, Marilyn?
I think I've been thinking about this one a lot. Take more chances.
Mm,
I think women, not all women, I think men tend to be raised to be bolder and take more
yeah.
chances. And I think as women, we don't take a lot of chances and
Hmm.
we're afraid to fail. Failing is it's to me really you only fail when you repeat yourself. So I'd say that, and I would say be your own best advocate. While we want to have allies and sponsors and mentors,
Yes.
no one's going to defend us more than ourselves. And so I really encourage people that if you need something, you need to be super clear with your supervisor what you want and how they can help you get there, whether that's tools, training, leadership development, whatever that is, make sure it's known because we
Yeah.
can't, that is the only way to get there faster.
Yeah. Because if you rely on others, you don't know what's on their list, right? And
Right.
no one can have your own back like you can.
Correct. For sure.
Oh man, this was so good. Thank you so much for being on the show again. I wish you continued happiness and joy. I'm not going to say success because I know that's a given. I'm just going to wish you health, happiness, and joy. So, Marilyn, thank you so much for everything you do. And where can women connect with you online?
So LinkedIn is probably the best place to find me. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, but I'm
Okay.
much more engaged on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So and it's pretty easy. It's Marilyn Vetter. I was an early adopter like you, and so
Yes.
I'm very easy to find.
Yes. And again, Brave Women at Work Lessons in Letting Go. It's coming out late June, around June 24th. So this will be airing right around that time. So pick up that hard copy for yourself. It's a beautiful, beautiful book and very motivational and inspirational along all the author stories. So again, Marilyn, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you, Jen.
Well, that's a wrap on my discussion with Marilyn today. I hope you found our conversation both valuable and inspiring. As a reminder, please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast in Apple Podcasts and Spotify. The show is also available on any other podcast platform you enjoy. Until next time, show up, chase joy, and be brave.